From Variety, celebrating more than 118 years covering the business of entertainment, this is the Award Circuit Podcast. Morgan Spector notes how the flaunting of wealth during the Gilded Age still can't be beat.
I know Elon Musk is supposed to, do a lot of acid and have threesomes, but at this point, that's not that exciting compared to people who used to throw entire parties for their dogs, where they would dress them up and feed them and have them sit at long banquet tables.
I'm Michael Schneider, and on this episode of the award-winning Variety Award Circuit Podcast, we talk to the Gilded Age star Morgan Spector. Also on this episode, we chat with After Midnight host Taylor Tomlinson. It's all next on this edition of the Variety Award Circuit Podcast. Stay close. Set in the titular time period around the 1880s, the Gilded Age chronicles the divisions in wealthy society. The Max series chiefly follows Bertha Russell, played by Carrie Coon, an aspiring socialite whose husband, George Russell, played by Morgan Spector, is a railroad tycoon. Bertha enters the New York high society scene only to find that the other ladies look down on her new money status. She makes an enemy of old money Agnes, played by Christine Baranski, who believes that Bertha doesn't belong in their world. Season 2 sees the conflict between Bertha and the old system ramp up, and also new developments in the relationship between Bertha and George.
I heard from the Duke. He says he'll stay with us when he comes to Newport.
Really?
Really. And you know what it means? My first event there will be the talk of the whole town. We won't have a single refusal unless people are at death's door. And even then, they may take up their beds and walk.
You've never said if you liked him.
To be honest, it doesn't take much to make a Duke likable. But yes, I like him. He's young, unstuffy, and more polite than I expected.
And what will Mrs. Winterton make of all this? Or don't you care?
Should I care about the feelings of a former lady's maid who attempted to seduce my husband?
May I find hope in your use of the word attempted?
It was never her claim that hurt me, but your silence.
Will you forgive me now?
If I do, enjoy it. There will be no more forgiveness if you hide any such thing from me again.
I've missed you, my darling.
Julian Fellowes, whose credits include Downton Abbey, serves as creator, writer, and executive producer on The Gilded Age. The first season of The Gilded Age made clear George was no one to trifle with, using his sharp elbows and iron will to get his way with the Russells' new neighbors on the Upper East Side. But in Season 2, he's not just a David punching up against Manhattan's stuffy, hidebound old money. He's a Goliath facing off against his own employees, who have started organizing for better wages and a more humane working schedule. Showing the dark side of the enormous wealth that had defined the show's namesake era while keeping George in the audience's good graces was a challenge, but one that Spector relished taking on. Variety's Allison Herman recently spoke to Morgan Spector about Season 2 of playing George Russell on The Gilded Age. They began by noting that, hey, it's okay to point out how despicable this character is.
Robert Barron, you can say it.
Well, I was going to say, I was so shocked that this season someone says the R word and the B word next to each other, which I was quite surprised because in Season 1, you really see George operating a little more like among his social milieu or the social milieu that he's trying to break into. And you know that he's a very rich man and that he's very ruthless in his business operations, but you don't see that.
Yeah.
And in Season 2, you do. So I was curious what kind of conversations you had going into the season with Julian Fellowes and Sonia Warfield, the two primary writers, about the direction George was going to be taking.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much we talked about it with the writers. They do so much of their work in the UK, so they're not around that much. A lot of what gets communicated to us is through Michael Angler, who's our producing director and who's sort of, the person you ask questions when you're actually on set most of the time. But I was very excited about the Union storyline. I was really glad we were doing it. I wasn't sure it was a place the show would want to go. I feel like, given the necessity of maintaining the audience's sympathies with, at least George but the Russells sort of generally, it becomes a tricky line to walk when you bring up labor issues in the 19th century, because I think from a modern perspective, it's like, it's not really a gray area. Like it was, there were children working in these factories. The amount, people were being maimed constantly by the work that they were being asked to do. There were no weekends. The hours were insane. It's very black and white in terms of who was right in the situation. And so maintaining a sort of a version of George, particularly that we can still root for and think of as a decent moral human being with a functioning conscience. I think that was the challenge in dealing with that story. And that was, the way that storyline resolved itself changed as it was, it was on the horizon, and it kept being sort of rewritten slightly. They were tinkering with it for a while. But I like where we landed. I think it makes sense.
What were some different hypothetical avenues that storyline could have taken?
I don't really remember, to be honest, but it was always a sort of balancing act with, let's not make George seem like a more ethical person than is credible, but also let's not have him turn into an absolute monster. And I think calibrating that was a writing challenge, actually. Well, I didn't have to worry about it. It's not my pay grade.
Well, I was going to ask that because there's the writing challenge of figuring out like what George is going to do and how tonally the show is going to handle it. But you're also the person who has to be the face of this person who's sympathetic or not sympathetic. So is that something you had in mind?
For me, the challenge was, okay, let's, once I find out what actually happens, then I have to sort of justify it and sort of, fill out the sketch that's been put there. Not the sketch. I don't want to underplay what writing is, but I actually have to like bring the story to life in a way that is psychologically credible and coherent. And so figure out what are the turns that George takes along the way to make the choice that he makes ultimately, and not choosing to fire on these guys, and why doesn't he, and would he ever have done that? What brings him to the brink of that decision, and then why does he make the decision that he does? And for me, it was about putting together this sort of plausible psychological daisy chain of events. First there's the visit to, first I think there are all of his interactions with Darren Goldstein's character, the union leader, who I think George really comes to respect. Actually, they have these combative interactions, but I think George comes to see that his perspective and his care for his workers is real. And then when he visits his home and he sees his children and he sees the sort of, he's treated with tremendous kindness and generosity by a family that is living in relative squalor compared to him. The children aren't being educated. I think that's something that he has compassion for. And when you see that kid in the front line of that strike, I think for George, it's just not really a question. He's not going to be the person that pulls the trigger there.
Yeah, I'm sure it also must have been surreal to go from one side of a fictional picket line in character as George to taking part in a strike in real life with your actual profession. Did that affect how you were thinking about either the show or the strike as both of them were happening?
What we finished shooting long before the strike began. It was sort of on the horizon. We knew it might come, but by the time we were putting the show out and people were watching the show, the strike was fresh in everybody's minds. It just ended. So it was fantastic. It's always, I think the show was able to speak to something that was really in the air. And I remember watching that episode, the strike episode, and thinking that Crystal Roberson, who directed it, had actually really made it quite poignant. Like, you were really on the side of those workers in that moment, and you really felt their power and their solidarity. And I don't know, I was proud of the show for pulling off that moment. And I think I was just happy. I thought during the strike, the temperature got really high. And I think that's only natural. That's what happens quite often during strikes. Because I think in our business, often you have a group of people who are standing on set collaborating, and the sort of structural inequities that exist between that group of people are not necessarily visible all the time. And then when you have a strike, suddenly all that stuff becomes really clear and really stark. And the stakes are high. How much time are you going to be given by your employer to live your life? And how much time are you going to have to be doing what they tell you? And when you're on set and you're at work, how much agency do you have? How much democratic power do you have? Those kinds of questions are still very live. And, that's what they were fighting over in the 19th century. And we're still trying to figure that out today.
Yeah, I'm curious. I have a lot of friends who are in the industry, and for them, the strike was almost like a second COVID. Obviously, they're very different circumstances, but they were suddenly found themselves with a lot of time where they weren't able to do their jobs, and some of them did things that weren't expected. So if I can ask, how did you end up spending your time on strike?
Well, I did not. I was out of work. My wife was shooting something in the UK. They were not on strike. And they had begun prior to any of the strikes beginning. So she was sort of in this awkward position of like not even legally being allowed to strike. She was on a UK contract anyway. I was over in Manchester, where she was working and just hanging out with my daughter and watching the strikes from afar.
Sounds great. Back to the show, I think something else that was really novel about George's arc this season is we're used to seeing George and Bertha as this united front, sort of a surprisingly progressive marriage. And in this season, we see some real conflict between them. First over, I guess I should call it L'Affaire Turner.
Yeah.
But it was kind of wild to see these characters, Carrie's especially, be really upset and at odds. And, you and Carrie have both a history on this show by now. You've worked together on other projects. What was it like to act those scenes where your characters, instead of working together, were more, didn't have the same interests in mind?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Carrie would say the same thing, but for me, it was a little bit painful. Like my favorite thing about the Gilded Age is the rapport that our characters have and the ease that they have with each other. So yeah, introducing this element of real difficult conflict and kind of coldness. I didn't like it. I wanted it to be over. I think George was a little bit more willing to defend his behavior than I was. So that was, I had to figure out how to stand in his corner and fight for him.
Well, unfortunately, it seems like it might not be over because heading into season 3, I guess another surprisingly progressive thing about George is that he wants his daughter to have a love match, and Bertha does not, or at least thinks other things might be more important. And that's sort of set up going into season 3. So without any spoilers, just are you dreading it, as you implied? Are you excited to dig into more conflict between those characters? What's your attitude towards that potential breach?
I mean, that one I'm excited to dig into because I think with the Turner thing, I think George really made a mistake. He's sort of caught off guard by how much he's hurt Bertha. I think in this case, George has really dug in on this issue, and so and so is Bertha, and so the two of them, I think there's a potential for like really going to battle. I couldn't give you any spoilers if I wanted to. I have no idea what happens yet. I haven't seen any scripts, but I don't know. My hope, I know the stories that we're sort of basing these storylines on, they don't end happily for the Gladys analog. I mean, she really ends up pretty miserable, and I'm just hoping we find a way through it that's distinct from that.
Yeah, the Gilded Age in general is quite closely modeled after real life history. Many of the characters are actual historical figures. And I was curious if like spending so much time up close with this era, obviously our current moment is compared to the Gilded Age a lot, but have you learned anything that has either surprised you or given you some perspective on history, just being rooted in this particular moment in time for so long?
I think the analogy is unfortunately pretty good. I mean, I think the power that we've allowed all of these billionaires to have in our own era there's not really another easy comparison to the sort of levels of inequality, et cetera. I think one thing about the 19th century robber barons is that they were, I think, maybe a little bit more creative with their wealth. Like I know Elon Musk is supposed to, like do a lot of acid and have threesomes, but at this point, that's like not that exciting compared to people who used to throw like entire parties for their dogs where they would dress them up and feed them and have them sit at long banquet tables. And, I guess just like sit in the corner and giggle over their doilies. I mean, there's just like these people were extravagantly eccentric. And they had so much time on their hands and so much money. And I think they were truly weirder. And it's sort of that way in which I almost respect them a little bit more. If you're going to have all that wealth, you might as well, throw a party for your dog.
To be fair, I do have a friend who threw a so-called bark mitzvah for their 13-year-old dog. So clearly, we're not very far off.
That sounds like a cool friend. Yeah.
I'll be sure to pass that on.
Did they learn the Haftorah and everything like that? Did they really do it?
I mean, I don't think the dog had the capability, but,
Weak.
I think it's an aesthetic thing that you're going for. But, I think something else that's really remarkable about the Gilded Age, watching it from a contemporary vantage point, is how accomplished the entire cast is in terms of theater. It's a New York-based show. I'm pretty sure there's like 1 Tony per capita if you just average it out over the whole cast. But it's pretty remarkable. And I was curious, as someone who's worked in theater yourself, how you feel that affects the atmosphere and collaboration on that set.
Yeah, I do. I think it definitely does. I think part of it is that there's a lot of people know each other already. There's genuinely a kind of there are community, there are a lot of old relationships on our set, which is wonderful. There's also, as a result of, like you're saying, that 1 Tony per capita, there's a lot of like respect and admiration mutual that's mutual between members of our cast. And I also think theater actors are really good at building a sense of ensemble, a sense of camaraderie between themselves and other actors in a way that you don't always have to on a TV set or a film set. You're much more isolated. You're in your trailer and then you come to set and, whereas with theater, you have weeks of rehearsal where you really get to know each other and you really develop relationships. And so I think on our set, there is that sense of just all being in it together. And it's really nice.
Were there any elder states people or veterans that you were especially starstruck to get to meet and collaborate with for the first time?
Unfortunately, I don't work with Christine and Cynthia that much, Christine Baranski and Cynthia Nixon. And I also have not really worked with Audra McDonald, but I have gotten to meet them and hang out with them a little bit. And that has just been amazing. I mean, these are, I took my daughter to see Wicked the other night, and like Christine Baranski is in the Theater Hall of Fame in the building where they do that thing. I mean, she's, these are legends. These are real giants. I mean, like Kelly O'Hara, Audra McDonald, they get Tony nominated every time they get out of bed. It's ridiculous. So yeah.
Justifiably.
Yes, justifiably. Absolutely.
Well, I was going to ask for what kind of update we could have on season 3, but I guess you told me. So you haven't seen the scripts yet.
Nothing. I haven't even heard gossip. I mean, I'm utterly in the dark.
Okay. So we don't know when you will be reporting to set again.
I don't know.
All right. I will disappointedly relay that news back to my peers.
Okay.
Well, we have a few minutes left, and one question I wanted to ask about your own personal platform and how you've used it is that you've been really consistently outspoken over the last few months about what's happening in Gaza. Mm-hmm. You've signed petitions. I believe you are currently wearing a pin that you've worn on many red carpets. You've shared stuff on social media. And I wanted to just take the opportunity to ask you why it's been really important to speak out on that issue for you.
I think it's just... I have found it just personally shocking and horrifying, mainly because the U.S. government, our government, is fundamentally doing this. We are watching something that the International Court of Justice has called a plausible genocide unfold month after month. And I think, the idea that we are continuing to supply arms to the aggressor in that conflict, without which they would not be able to continue to carry out the war that Israel's carrying out in Gaza. I think it's shocking to the conscience. It's horrifying. And coming fast on the heels of the war in Ukraine, where the United States was defending a country against an aggressor and claiming to be upholding the rules-based international order, I think it's destructive to the entire system of global governance. I think what's happening right now is corrosive to the soul of our species in a way that I don't think any of us are going to get over anytime soon. And, I think it's really terrifying that neither presidential candidate in this race is really offering a policy difference here. I think it's pretty clear that Trump would be doing the same thing that Joe Biden is doing. And I don't understand why Biden continues to defy his constituents. Poll after poll shows people don't support what he's doing. This is clearly some kind of ideological commitment on his part. I don't think this is strategically sound. I don't think it's morally defensible in any way. And I just think, increasingly, we have no choice but to continue speaking up about it. And I hope, you're seeing these protests spread across campuses all across America, and this incredibly violent, repressive police crackdown happening under the governorships of both Republicans and Democrats. There's something about this conflict that is not only uniquely horrifying, but that reveals the true power structures of our world. And I think it's important that we continue to speak out and ask for something better and fairer and more just and more peaceful.
Yeah, it's well said. It feels almost petty to go from an issue of this size and importance to individual careers. But one of the petitions you signed was in support of Jonathan Glazer for a speech at the Oscars, which was obviously quite internally divisive within this industry. The other day, Nicola Coughlan gave an interview where she said she'd been told she might face potential career reprisals for speaking out on this issue. Is that a consideration you have had at all or heard about in your own advocacy?
Well, we've certainly seen some, especially early on, there was this sort of rhetorical landscape that you couldn't tread into. If you used certain words, if you used ceasefire, if you said genocide prior to the ICJ thing, there were, people were being really disciplined internally. We saw what happened with Melissa Barrera. She lost a job. We saw what happened. There was a CAA agent who was removed from sort of internal, like a government internal board. And so, I think there have been ways that institutions within this business have disciplined people kind of publicly. I think some of that has changed as the situation has gotten more egregious. I think there's a little bit of a tide turn here. It's also possible that there's just, quiet decision making happening. I don't know. But I honestly thought what Jonathan Glazer said at the Oscars was, he was speaking out against dehumanization of other people. I mean, this was not, I don't know. He was misquoted badly in Variety. And I think that caused a kind of cascade of anger. And people didn't really recover from that. I'm not sure how much of the backlash against what he said was due to that misquoting and how much of it was due to the actual substance of what he said. But I was shocked to see any backlash at all. I mean, his film is about, while it is set during the period of the Holocaust and is about the Holocaust in a certain way, it is also about what we are all willing to tolerate in the present, in terms of the world that the amount of immiseration and suffering that we could stop and don't. And I think that's actually what his film is about. It's about the people worrying about their home renovations on the other side of the wall. All the people, if you watched his film and didn't understand that, I think it was a misinterpretation. And I thought what he said, it was very brave. And it was, I think, hard to argue with, frankly.
Yeah, very different tones, obviously, but it's almost reminiscent of the Gilded Age in that you watch the film and you're like, this is clearly set at a different time and in a different place, but there are all these almost uncanny, except that's sort of how history works, parallels to what we're seeing today in all these different areas. Yeah,
no, absolutely. There are certainly resonances with our contemporary reality, especially about inequality.
That's Morgan Spector, star of The Gilded Age, now streaming on Max. After the break, We talked to CBS's After Midnight host, comedian Taylor Tomlinson. From Los Angeles, this is the Award Circuit Podcast. And we're back. It's the Variety Award Circuit Podcast, and I'm Michael Schneider. Taylor Tomlinson is a rising comedian whose Netflix specials include Quarter Life Crisis and Look at You, with more on the way. Tomlinson was tapped last fall to take on the job of replacing the void left by the end of The Late Late Show with James Corden via After Midnight, a bit of a faux game show starring comedians riffing on pop culture and viral videos. It's based on the old Comedy Central series At Midnight and has already attracted quite a roster of guest stars, including, in this case, Drew Carey.
It's Drew Carey! Hello. Drew, if you weren't being filmed right now, what would you say?
Oh, no. Oh, is this being filmed?
Oh, yeah, this is being filmed. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, we just got a couple.
Give me a minute.
Oh, yeah.
So, I saw a fish at the Sphere this weekend. Never saw a fish, didn't know a fish tune, and they blew my minds off so hard. I thought to myself, I had a bunch of girls with me, and I thought to myself, is this what it's like to People that were there can verify 100% true. This is what it's like. It was like being edged for 4 days straight. And then right before the face-melting climax at the end on the 4th day, an angel comes down from heaven, Gabriel, and he shoots heroin in your arm. And he says, good luck now, and he leaves. And then you have an orgasm for 15 minutes while your eyeballs fall out of your head. Next time they play the Sphere, you better not miss it.
That was so great, and we can definitely use all of it. Absolutely we can. And I don't want you guys to take my next sentence as any indication that we can't use it. Oh, you'd like to pass? That's okay. Thomas.
I recently spoke with Tomlinson about how she initially wasn't sure she wanted to do a TV series, given how lucrative her touring schedule is, but she was able to balance the demands of a daily show with her weekend gigs, and it seems to be working. We talked about her daily schedule in creating the show, how it's still heavily written even if it looks fully improvised, how exec producer Stephen Colbert has been helpful in providing valuable notes in time, and more. We began by noting that this is her first awards season, given that After Midnight has just launched.
It's our first anything for the show because we're on season 1. So we're still waiting to hear if we have a season 2 or not. So we'll see.
How does that work in terms of scheduling? Like, was there like a set number of months or weeks or episodes that they picked up?
Yes, I think we're doing 97 episodes for the first season, I want to say. And the end of the first season is the end of August.
Yeah.
So we knew from the beginning of the year we were at least going until the end of August.
That's cool. And then, I guess maybe you'll find out, I assume, in a couple of weeks about fall.
I would hope so.
Unless they just like to dangle that over you.
I know nothing about network television. I'm very new to all of this. So I'm like, when do we find out? They're like, we just kind of wait. Like I'm such a noob. So your guess is as good as mine. Probably better than mine, quite frankly.
You say you're such a noob, but I kind of feel like you kind of came out and boom, you knew how to do this. Like this was a little, even that first week, that first series of episodes, and maybe part of the show is just because it is so freestyle anyway, but it seemed like you had a handle on this.
Oh, that's so nice. I certainly didn't feel that way. I think it took probably a couple months to feel like I had any sort of handle on it. And I was really just faking my way through in the beginning because I was pretty overwhelmed. And I think in a lot of ways, this is the hardest job I've ever had to do. But I have such a great crew around me that's so supportive that I wasn't as afraid to do it as I thought I would have been. But it was definitely an adjustment. Stand-up comedy, you're up there alone. Like if you kill by yourself. If you bomb by yourself. And so to be in front of not just an audience, but also an audience of our crew and showrunners and writers and 3 other comedians I usually really respect, that was really daunting and scary. And I think the thing that has helped me get less worried and less in my head about it is just realizing that my role as a host is to make these three comedians or panelists shine. It's not for me to prove every episode that I'm the funniest person in the room. Like, I shouldn't be the funniest person in the room. Like, my job is sort of to set those people up to crush and be hilarious. And hopefully, if people who watch After Midnight aren't familiar with them beforehand, go, oh my gosh, I want to look them up and see what else they've done.
So in some ways, it's very much like the improv in the yes and culture, right? And sort of like helping them yes and them as they are sort of working through their own kind of improv material.
Well, it's not all improv. I mean, we have a writer's room. So panelists get there in the afternoon. They work with a writer. They each get assigned a writer who have all worked really hard on the episode and to make them look good. So depending on who it is, I mean, a lot of people come in and they're stand-ups and they use some of our writers' jokes and then they write some of their own. But then there's other people who maybe come in and they only want to use jokes our writers have come up with for them and focus on delivering them. But I think what's so great about our show is that I would hope that anybody who goes into doing it feels so prepared by the time they get up there with these hard jokes. There's so much room to improvise and to play around and be silly and take big swings, because we're also, I think, something I'm proud of is like our show will really protect you if you're like, I don't like that joke that I did. They're like, great, we'll cut it. Like, not a big deal at all. So I think as a team, our biggest goal is that people come on and leave going, that was so fun. What a great experience. I can't wait to do that show again.
Yeah. And I guess that's a tribute to the writers, the fact that, you know, a lot of times it does seem like it's so riffy, that it is so off the cuff. Even the jokes that have been written, they feel like, you know, they kind of just came to these comedians and that there is a lot, especially as the episode progresses, there's a lot more improv as people are referring back to things or seeing what worked with the audience, and they lean into that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it depends on the game. I mean, we sometimes play games on the show that are largely improv, and then other ones feel like improv, but they're pretty prepared. And then other times it's hard jokes, like, you know, hashtag wars every night is like they come in armed with all of those. But yeah, certain jokes, or certain games, I should say, certain games are very improvisational. So I think it's a nice mixture.
Have you gotten used to the producer in your ear? Was that sort of a process of sort of, you know, how do you sort of like, are you listening and hosting and interacting with the comedians? There's a lot that you have to do as host.
There's a lot to juggle. I mean, again, I feel so supported. Our two showrunners, Jack Martin and Eric Pierce. I mean, Eric is on stage with me every act break to go over the next act and, you know, give whatever notes and talk me through things. And then Jack's constantly in my ear from the control room. So between the two of them, I really feel, again, just very supported in a way that I couldn't have anticipated when I took the job at first.
And you figured out the point system now.
Yes. I mean, you know, it depends on the game. We did a show last night where I think by the end of it, I was like, am I giving points for this, Jack? Like, I couldn't remember the setup. And he's like, yeah, give whatever points you want. And I was like, oh, okay, great. I couldn't remember because it had just sort of gotten away from us as far as improving goes.
Yeah, that's my favorite part, is because honestly, as we know, the points don't really matter, but it's kind of just the fun aspect of whatever you want.
Yeah.
Give them an extra 100.
Oh, 100%. And people who come on and just blatantly ask for more points because they realize it doesn't matter that much has been very funny.
Yeah. Now that they're into it.
Oh yeah, Tig Notaro gave herself points. She came by and hit the button herself.
Tig is great.
Tig's hilarious.
So the New York Times called you the perfect late night host for the TikTok era.
Oh, that's nice.
What does that mean to you?
I mean, you'd have to ask them. I don't know. What does it mean to me? Maybe I'm a great host for people with short attention spans. I don't know. I would hope that they just mean for this new age of the internet, I would suppose, because I think TikTok is maybe, at least for me, it's my favorite social media platform at the moment. So I think our show does take a lot from TikTok, and that's the biggest difference between our show and At Midnight, is just back then it wasn't as videos based, you know, It was a lot of Twitter. And so our show, I'm throwing to a lot of videos on that huge screen, and most of them are from TikTok.
TikTok may be going away though. Maybe.
I know. And then we'll all have to watch reels. We'll have to just get over it. Yeah, I don't know. That'll definitely affect our show if it does go away, for sure.
Yeah.
And then there'll be the next thing, I suppose, right?
There's always a new thing, right? Remember when like Clubhouse was a thing for like a week?
Right. Periscope.
Yeah.
Remember Periscope?
Yeah. And what was the one that was named after an animal that was even before Periscope?
Oh, gosh, I don't know. I was never on Vine. So when people talked about TikTok going away, you sort of go, well, there's no way that'll happen. It's so big. And then you go, oh, wait, that's exactly what happened to Vine, where Vine was huge and then it was just gone.
It was just shut down one day. Do you think they're thinking in Congress about how this might impact after midnight?
I mean, I'm sure it's at the top of their minds.
Yeah.
I'm sure we're very important politically.
Yeah. It's content. You've got to fill an hour.
Yeah.
That is a lot. Like at first, was that daunting to you, and sort of like realizing, obviously it's not quite an hour. It's 44 minutes, 45 minutes, but that's a lot of time.
It is, yeah. And honestly, it was daunting to me at first because again, At Midnight, which our show is a reimagining of, was half an hour, and so ours is twice as long. And I think at first I was like, oh man, is that going to feel difficult to fill? But I actually think it's been great because again, it gives people the space to sort of stretch out and take risks and try things and improv, and given us the space to branch out games wise as well. Like we always have a game where everyone's out in front of the podiums. Like now everyone's behind the podium the whole hour to break it up. So yeah, I think it's actually been great, the space.
Yeah, and I think also it's sort of that, for people who still watch linear TV, which, I don't know how many people do anymore, but it feels like it is the perfect end of night, 12:30 a.m., 12:37 a.m., I guess is technically the right time. Kind of show that you can kind of like lull yourself, like it's so relaxing and easy to watch, and just to watch these comedians riffing. It feels like it's perfect for that time slot, but then also perfect for those digestible bites if you're watching TV the way most people do now online.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. I think that, I just watched the show for the first time on television. Like I'd never watched it on television.
Oh, really?
And
you
I
stayed up till 12:37 a.m.?
Well, I was in Denver, so it was on a little earlier.
Okay, 11:37.
11:37. But I was on the road in Denver doing shows at Comedy Works, and I came back after the shows and was like, oh, our show might be on now, and turned it on. And I was like, honestly, this really reminds me of shows I watched growing up on TV, like Who's Line and America's Funniest Home Videos and late night shows. Like it's a nice combination of all of those formats, I think. And I agree. I think it's a great end of night show. I think it's a great show to watch the next morning, like on Paramount Plus, or if you record it on TV, to watch in the morning while you're getting ready to go to work. Like we've talked about it a lot. Like we would love for it to be a comfort show for people. And I think that's what it is.
And also, in some ways, if you want to stay up to speed with pop culture, it's kind of a good primer to know what people are talking about. What are some of the memes that people are talking about? The videos, just what's happening. So, for those of us who are starting to get a little older, it is sort of a nice way to, okay, I know what that is.
Hey, it's good for me too. I've learned a lot from this show. There's a lot of things that I've had to ask the writers. Okay, what does that mean? And they're like, well, we'll explain it to you. You're elderly. I really have come in a lot of times and not known what people were referring to or talking about. So I'm right there with everybody else.
Do you feel a little more plugged in now, though? Or do you sort of feel you know what's going on with the kids?
Oh, yeah. Where I'm like, oh, is this what was important? Okay. Because the thing with TikTok is your For You page really is for you. The more time you spend on TikTok, the more your For You page isn't as viral and it's more just what you want to see, which for me is like women quitting their jobs to write books in the woods. Like I have a very specific curated For You page of cottagecore and therapy. So I don't always catch the biggest things on the internet.
Yeah. Well, the memes in particular, and now that your show actually contributes to some of those memes too, it's almost like it's feeding upon itself. When Drew Carey starts talking about a Fish concert, for example, and that goes viral, suddenly a show about viralness is now also generating viralness.
Right. Yeah, that was incredible. Oh my gosh. And how he just walked out in front of the podiums and really performed it. That was special. That was really special.
Yeah. That being said, I still don't get Fish.
Well, that was what was so crazy is I think he said it. He goes, I'd never been to a Fish concert. I'd never heard a Fish song. And he's like, I went to this concert and now I love Fish, which is the greatest compliment I think you can get as a live performer, right? That you converted someone who had no idea how great you were.
Yeah. And yet I still don't buy it. I still don't.
You don't buy that he went to Fish?
No, I bought that he went to Fish. I just don't buy that it was actually a transcendent experience.
Oh, no, I think it was. He was talking about it off camera, too. He from the minute he got there that day, he was excited. I think it was genuine.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
I think
that's what I like so much about it is like I was watching him going, man, I can't wait to enjoy something as much as Drew Carey enjoyed this Fish concert. It was really like the joy was inspiring.
Well, my favorite part too of that episode is that, he does go off the rails. There's a lot that had to be bleeped. I still don't know what he said. I kind of have an idea maybe, but it had to stay in because it was referenced throughout the rest of the episode. So I'm sure those conversations after taping are really interesting. What can we keep in? What can't we? Is there an S&P person who's standing there like from CBS saying, is there a negotiation between the producers and them? Or how does that all what's that conversation like after a show?
We all have a meeting immediately after taping the show where everybody kind of goes over what we thought might be iffy, and sometimes we talk things out and other times things get pulled by S&P, and that's a totally new experience for me as well, because with stand-up, nobody's editing you at all. But yeah, I mean, we're usually all on the same page, I think. And it depends show to show because some shows are really smooth. We go to that meeting afterward and we're like, I don't think we have to cut anything. That was great. And then other times we go in and we go, wow, that ran really long. It was really fun. It went off the rails in a great way. But man, that's a lot of editing, like to get that down to 45 minutes or whatever.
Yeah. But off the rails is sometimes the best TV.
It really is. They cut together so well. I mean, there are shows where I go, oh man, that was a lot. I don't know how they're going to do that. And then you watch the episode and you're like, wow, this looks like it went as smooth as it could have gone, but has such a fun, like such a high energy to it.
Yeah, organized chaos.
Organized chaos, exactly.
The goal.
Yes.
So what are the Colbert notes these days? Do you hear much from him, or is he sort of like, yeah, just keep doing what you're doing?
Oh yeah, I mean, he was really helpful when we started, figuring out what the show was going to be and getting it off the ground. And he was there for the first show we taped, which was amazing, and gave a nice speech afterward. And it's been really helpful to see him and how he works and how much people love working with and for him. Because stepping into a role like this as hosting a show is very scary for me. And obviously our show is very different than a traditional late night talk show where it is more so about the host. And I feel like on our show, I'm much more like an employee and like a member of a team as opposed to like the boss. But yeah, he's given some really helpful notes, and I think he's been so supportive of the show, obviously as a producer and just with his time as well, with me personally. And I just feel really lucky that he's the one behind all this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What is your schedule like these days? Like, because you're taping pretty close to air. What is the setup for you like?
Usually we have the writers and researchers come in earlier in the morning, along with our graphics team who do so much work on the show. And then we have a table read at 11:30. And then we have a lunch break, and then our panelists start arriving and start working with writers while we're doing a tech rehearsal and then my run through. And then we say hello to all the panelists and have them do a rehearsal on stage. And then the audience loads in and we film at 4:15. We're usually done by 6 at the latest. And then, but Pacific time, it's on TV on the other coast at 9:37. So it's quick. It's a quick turnaround, which I really love, honestly, because it's any way the show went, if you're happy with it or unhappy with it that day, get over it. There's another one tomorrow.
Right. And that sort of allows you then to still have your evenings free, I suppose, if you want to do shows, at least around town. I can't imagine you can get too far out, but...
Right. Well, Wednesdays we have a longer day because we film one show Monday, one show Tuesday, and then we shoot 2 shows on Wednesday. So Wednesday is more of a that's till about 10 p.m.
That's the crazy day.
On Wednesdays, yeah. And then I am now, doing stand-up on the weekends, so I'll probably be traveling on Thursdays or Friday mornings, doing shows Friday, Saturday, coming home on Sunday.
Yeah.
So I can do
So that's
show.
allowing you to still balance things pretty well. Or how's that going so far? Are you just tired?
I mean, I'm tired, but it was harder in the beginning because we were getting the show off the ground. I was doing a lot of press. I was pretty sick at the time, and we were shooting 4 days a week instead of 3. So I wasn't on the road for the first couple months of the show, and I was really missing it and feeling a little disoriented because anytime I have to take time away from stand-up in a significant way, I feel pretty disoriented and worried about getting rusty or getting bad at it because it's such a muscle. But now that I sort of feel like I have a handle of hosting this show and have more of a schedule with it that I can count on, doing stand-up on the weekends is feels really relaxing, honestly, in comparison, because the road is yes, the travel is hard. Getting to Madison, Wisconsin is not the most relaxing experience. That's a full day of travel. But when you actually get to that city and you do have the day free to work on material and work on jokes and go for a walk and go to the gym and sort of just focus all your energy on those 4 hours at night that you're going to have to be on, it is different than going to set all day and having to be on all day, So
yeah. Are they giving you the Paramount jet yet? Is Sherry Redstone I'm not using it this weekend, Taylor?
No one's brought up the Paramount jet to me. I mean, that might be a second season type of thing.
That could be.
They're not even going to tell me about the Paramount jet yet. They're earn it, kid.
Well, we're not sure who's going to own the Paramount jet in a couple of weeks.
True.
So we'll stay tuned for that. That's a whole other conversation. But that's cool. So you feel like you're kind of getting back out there. There was a Netflix is a Joke festival that's going on right now as we speak. And I believe you have some shows there.
Yes, I have a show on Sunday.
So that's cool. What's what is your show like right now? What's kind of your I know a lot of what your comedy has been about has been sort of your stages in life and kind of this is a big part of your life now. So I don't know how much doing a TV show is part of your act, but sort of how would you kind of describe the stage of your comedy is now compared to your life?
Oh gosh, that's so funny. Can you imagine going up? Don't you hate it when you're hosting a TV show?
Exactly.
So this is relatable, right?
Negotiating with a major broadcast network. Who's been there? Who's
been there? Come on. The hour I'm working on now, and who knows how it'll change, but right now, it's a lot about growing up in church. It's a lot about religion. It's a lot about sexuality and deciding whether or not I want to have kids. I think those are the 3 big ideas. And I'm having a lot of fun with it. I think it's very different from my most recent special, Have It All, and probably more similar to my second special, Look at You. But yeah, I mean, this is my favorite part about stand-up is building the new hour and trying out new jokes, and every set feels so productive and so important, and just finding it. I really enjoy that. But I think I have the broad strokes of it for sure. And I started doing stand-up as a teenager, and I started in churches. So that's something that people are always asking me about. And I think there were certainly a number of years that I was okay, how many times are we going to talk about this? But it is such an interesting, and I admit, different origin story for a comedian that I understand why everybody wants to talk about it. But I'm now at a point where I think I'm like, I mean, if people want to know, I'll talk about it. Like, I'd love to talk about it. Let's get into it. And what I love about stand-up is, you know, all the things that I want to talk about. I have a couple years to work out exactly how I want to say them on the road in front of thousands of people across the country until I know this is what I want to say and this is how I want to say it. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, and you still have another special to tape, right, at some point. So do you know when and where you're doing that?
Oh no, we just put out the last one.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's sometime probably late next year.
We want content.
I know. It's so funny. Every time you put out a special, everyone's like, "So when's the next one?"
Yeah,
and you're
exactly.
like, "This one's ready. I just did one."
Seriously, just bloodletting for
Come on,
years.
guys.
Yeah.
I just did it.
People they want more. They want more.
Yeah, they do.
Have audiences changed at all since you've been on TV more and now people have a chance to see you regularly? Have you noticed any new kind of fans, or is it maybe too soon to tell?
I think it's probably too soon to tell. I'm not sure. And, you know, I don't get a good look at everybody who comes to see me, you know, with when it's like a few thousand people. So I'm not even sure how I would gauge that necessarily.
Yeah.
But I do have friends who are like, my parents watch it every night. Like there are more people, I think, outside of the age bracket that I probably resonate with the most, that are liking After Midnight. So I think that's really cool.
Can't help for the career, I assume. It sort of brings you to an even wider audience, and that could help with whatever it is you want to do next. I know you've had films in development. I mean, there's a lot of different things you're tackling. Is there something right now that you're kind of excited about or pondering that's maybe on the horizon?
Yeah, I just finished another script with my writing partner, and we're really excited about that. And that's kind of something that we've been chasing for a while and I would love to see happen. But I also just feel really open to the possibilities in this business because I never thought I would be hosting a late night show. Like, was never something I thought I wanted to do, mostly because of the schedule generally being Monday through Friday taping. So I knew I couldn't tour at the same time. So I never thought that there would be a show that I could tape and then go on the road simultaneously, and also that there would be a show that would make me want to step back from touring even an inch, you know, like doing a network TV show is not necessarily what it was to a stand-up comedian years ago. I mean, now like you make a lot of money on the road, and like the road is very lucrative and important and, you know, foundational to everything else you want to do. So I really went back and forth on whether or not I wanted to take the job because I wasn't sure it was worth taking time away from stand-up. But the more meetings I took and the more people involved that I met with, the more I just wanted to work with this group of people. And I wanted to learn a new skill and see what that would do for me as a person, not even for my career necessarily. Like I wasn't doing this to further my career in any way or you know, just become bigger or something. It really was just that, wow, this sounds really fun. This sounds like it's going to help me grow as a human being. And I would love to have coworkers. Like I'd love to have a community that I'm a part of where we're making something every day. And it's really been everything I wanted it to be.
That's kind of cool. And the fact that you're able to balance that with still being on the road is kind of the best of both worlds to some degree.
It really is. It really is. Yeah.
So what's I guess we have to wait and see what the next dream is now.
I know. We got to find new dreams.
Yeah. Yeah. Hosting the Grammys.
I know. There you go.
Now you get to enter all of the derbies for who's going to host this. Hey, Taylor knows how to host.
Now that they know how to host. Oh, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that.
So now you can be on the short list.
Seems like a tough job hosting these award shows.
Yeah, because everyone hates you.
Everyone's so mad at you. I really have so much respect for everyone who takes that job because it seems tough.
So this is the dumbest question. So I apologize. You probably get this all the time, but I'm kind of curious because I haven't had a chance to hear your answer. But who have you been most excited to riff with so far on After Midnight? Is there a comedian or an idol or just someone who you kind of were excited to get to know?
Oh gosh, I mean, it's been so cool to see comedians that I haven't seen for years or that I've only interacted with online. Like this world is so small, the comedy world, but you just don't see each other very much because once you're a headliner, you're gone all the time.
Yeah.
So unless you're like in town going up and, seeing the same people, like you just don't see each other very much. And when you do, it's more in passing. At least for me, you have, your friends. But, again, there's just so many comics that I would love to be better friends with. Oh, God, there's been so many. I mean, it was really cool. We had Wayne Brady on. Our Super Bowl episode was Kevin Smith, Wayne Brady, and Maria Bamford. That was a very cool panel that I was very intimidated by.
Fun mix, yeah.
Oh my gosh, so fun. And we really pulled out all the stops for the Super Bowl. We had a Fog Machine and Mark Rebier from TikTok. Like everyone was really, we were going for it. I really should have an answer prepared for this. Weird Al came on with Drew Carey and Tom Lennon. That was cool. Tom Lennon's always so great.
Tom Lennon is, he's like a secret weapon.
Oh my God, he's incredible. He's done the show twice now, which was so nice of him. And God, he's so funny. And yeah, it's been nice to be surprised by people too that you thought maybe wouldn't do it or wouldn't enjoy it or wouldn't be as like silly. And it's just really cool to see people branch out and be game and play the games that you're not sure how they're going to go. And then depending on who it is, it's like really comes alive. So yeah, I don't know. It's been amazing. And I'm excited for people we have coming up. And yeah, our bookers do such a great job putting these panels together because it's not just booking one person on their own to sit down and do an interview. I mean, it's booking the chemistry of three people together. So it's a hard job, I think.
Yeah, and they have to perform. They have to have that skill.
Yes.
So I've been trying to convince CBS executive Nick Bernstein to do it, but
I love Nick.
It's like I'm back behind the scenes. He became a weird star during the Corden days, and I still give him shit for that.
Nick's the best. He's so good. He's so in it with us. He's the best.
Yeah. No, I love that you guys have this family going, and I love that you're being able to split your time. It's a good time to be Taylor Tomlinson. So congrats and good luck. Hopefully we'll hear about the new season pickup very soon.
Thank you.
That's Taylor Tomlinson, host of CBS's After Midnight. And that's it for this edition of Variety's Award Circuit Podcast. Aaron Greenewald edited this episode, and Michael Schneider is the producer. Be sure to subscribe to the Award Circuit Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you download podcasts. Also, head on over to Variety.com and click on the Award Circuit tab to find the latest awards predictions and key races, as well as your daily fix of news, analysis, and reviews. For Jazz Tanke, Emily Longaretta, and Clayton Davis, I'm Michael Schneider, and we'll see you on the circuit.